People of Earth, we have a confession to make. We wanted to save this as kind of a surprise, but we're invading.
Yeah, instead of my skin turning green, it turns red. I just disclaimer everybody as before we get into the show. If you watch this episode on our YouTube channel on Digital Charcuterie, I've been outside for an event all day, and just the camera, just for some reason, it's translating redder than my face is translating redder than it should be. I'm not that burnt, but I'm that burnt. Okay.
That pink woman that Star-Lord sleeps with at the beginning of Guardians 1, you're her species right now.
Marit, I think is her name. Yeah. You're quick as a whip, buddy. You're quick as a whip.
That's okay, sir. Even pink, you're still a handsome gent.
Thank you. But yeah, just for the record, it's not as bad as it seems.
We could actually say it's promo for the Barbie movie, and try to get some residuals off of that.
Mm-hmm. That's commitment, right.
Because without us, that movie wouldn't be making money.
Oh, we live in a hilarious world. Yeah, there you go. Well, all right. So that being said, disclaimers are out, my friend. The Barbie movie's doing well.
Yes.
But today we're talking about some Secret Invasion. Am I right?
We sure are. And the show's called Infinity Rewatch because I think I forgot to say that off the top. And we're talking about Secret Invasion's finale episode. I'm a Skrull pretending to be Andrew Fantasia.
And I'm a Red Skull.
Ooh, not a scratch, Doctor, not a scratch.
Evidently not. My name is Ryan J. Whitehead. And, just before we get started, I do miss our little intro that young lady used to do for us. I really do.
Oh, Erin's intro. Yeah, we should get her to record like a shiny new one, a Phase 5 intro for us.
Yeah, do like a video intro would be great.
With lasers and explosions.
Yeah, I would like that. Anyway, this is an interesting episode, I'm not going to lie. And first of all, I think it was Jonathan. I saw his post on Twitter. Jonathan, I saw your post on Twitter. I'm going to quickly call it out because you left it on there last time and you said some things.
What did he say?
He said, right, and this is about the last episode. Okay, this was
about previous last week's, right? Episode 5? Okay.
At Andrew Fantasia, Rebel Scumcast, and Crusader Online, not in that order. He said, love the episode. However, I disagree about the show. I love it. I think it's the best Marvel Disney Plus show we got. More adult. I think the world needs a little bit more of that. Jonathan, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Oh, no. Marit's brother is dropping the mic.
I mean, hey, man, I'm glad you found a style and tone of Marvel that you like. And I agree that I don't think adult's the proper word. I think there's a bit more trust in the audience it's going to. I think it's kind of like Young Justice, where it's like it knows the audience it's pulling in, so it can have a little more fun with the level of intensity and knowing that the audience can handle it and just kind of, play around with that. Do I think it's Marvel's like best Disney Plus show? No, I don't. I think this one, not gonna lie, this one's good, but I do think it's a little forgettable. I think there's some good moments. I think it has, again, this is another good example of it had some great moments. It was a really cool idea, but overall, I don't think all these things mixing together created a product that's like, defines it lives up to the standard that I hold Marvel in. And again, you're entitled to your opinion as much as I'm entitled to mine. I'm just saying, I think you're wrong.
Wow. Harsh words from Infinity Rewatch. No, I get it, man. I totally feel you. And I totally feel Jonathan as well here. This is a very mature show that takes it to darker, quieter levels that the MCU has not quite strayed into. And it is a cinematic universe with a lot of different playgrounds to play in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean, I could take a hypothetical 12-year-old son or daughter of mine to Thor Love and Thunder, and they'd have a great time. But I could take that same hypothetical kid to watch Secret Invasion, and they'd be like, I don't really dig this. What's happening? And it's just the difference of genre and the difference of tone and the difference of writing and the type of story that's being told and all these mixed things that are part of this cocktail of the show. And it, not to jump ahead too far into my final thoughts, but I think that every episode of Secret Invasion has had at least one sprinkle moment where I'm like, ooh, that's a lovely moment. I really like that. But those sprinkles have kind of been, instead of being sprinkled atop like a donut or a scoop of ice cream, which in the case of this very strange metaphor is other Marvel shows and movies and how they've been doing it. It feels like these sprinkles were added on top of mashed potatoes, and not like amazing mashed potatoes, but the kind you buy that are like quick store-bought ones that don't really have a lot of flavor, and you're like, why did I eat that? I mean, the sprinkles were good, but why did I eat those mashed potatoes? I'm not saying I hate the show. I'm not saying I think it was a bad show. I am saying now I'm out on the other side of the show. I've seen it all, and I still don't know why they made it, why they told this story, or who this story is for. But it had a lot of good moments that I enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. I think that exactly kind of sums it up nicely. Do I feel like the story needed to be told? I don't know. I don't know how to answer it. And at the same time, too, like I still feel like this particular story is very isolated when it could have been a bit bigger in terms of the scale of it. Like the scope was very fine and very finite and very specific, and there wasn't a lot of payoffs in some of the story arcs they were building. So it doesn't answer any of those questions strongly enough, and it just kind of leaves me like it just kind of leaves me, it just kind of leaves me in this world, and it's just like I don't know where to go or like what to feed off of, really. I don't know what to feed off of is a good statement. I don't know what to feed off of this. And like let's break it down. Let's break it down into like why. Let's break it down why I couldn't like feed off of this. One, we talked about the big payoff of like Gaia's character, and like she could have been Abigail Brand, and there could have been a character payoff origin story there. And to be fair, she is a cool new character that they kind of built if you kind of think about it. And it's kind of a good origin story for her, depending on how they use her in the later projects, which is fine. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of just like set up all these really interesting stories, and then the payoffs were all just like literally the most simple responses to them. You know what I mean? Like, we got to break out all these people that Skrulls have, captured, all these key characters. And then the ending is like, well, we did it. And it's like, okay, cool. Right? And it's like, oh, we got to tell the president and let him know the Skrulls have invaded Earth. And it's like, okay, president, Skrulls have invaded Earth. They're the bad guys. Yeah. It's not like truth. It's just facts. And there's nothing. It's like giving someone short-ended questions, and there's literally nothing to run with. It's like, hey, how was your day today? Good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly how it feels. And so really, I mean, this episode even didn't waste any time at all. Like it kind of kicked off into the Super Skrull thing, and even the Super Skrull payoff. We kind of got it already. This whole climactic battle of two Super Skrulls. And to be fair, at first I thought it was Nick Fury. I had a moment where I'm like, okay, cool, Nick Fury's there. How's he going to survive this one? And then immediately I'm starting going, and you should never feel this way, but it should, like I've said in past podcasts, it should feel like a wrestling match. You know what I mean? The two wrestlers are building up their match, and you're getting all riled up, like, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Let's go. Let's get into this. They're finally in the ring. Anticipation's at its highest, and they start fighting, and it's like epic. It's like, how is he going to do it? How is he going to do it? And then the big epic body slam that Hulk Hogan does, like, that's what we live for. And with the Marvel shows, the stories can be what they are, but inevitably it comes down to the wrestling match between two great wrestlers that have been hyping up this match for God knows how long. And the payoff here is not that strong because Gravik is like the Super Skrull, and we kind of get to see him be the Super Skrull. But in the end, we have Gaia, who is literally the copy version of the Super Skrull. And when we're trying to see like if she's something more than that, and really just becomes a fight where the stakes are like, and here's the other thing is like her stakes for coming into the match is like Gravik's wrong, but Talos isn't right about how to go about solving these problems. So she's going in it with an indifference here that's like, okay, let's just go in and defeat Gravik then. And that's not how a fight works. Like fight works when there's a cause to be like defending. Like literally, like you believe that this is wrong because you know what is right, and you need to stand that ground, and you need to prove this person wrong. And that could mean defeating them literally, or it could mean defeating them mentally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like I will literally not give up and prove to you why this needs to happen. And that fight, this on Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant fight was pretty anticlimactic. It was just like, okay, she's gonna defeat him. That's it.
As a guy who's only ever watched one wrestle, I can only agree with you in spirit. I'm sure wrestling fans out there are right now. They're like, yes, exactly, Ryan, exactly. I see what you mean.
You don't even need to know wrestling to get my reference because like it's David versus Goliath. Like that's essentially what every fight should feel like.
Right. And the idea of the villain being the Goliath, right, and the villain having all the advantage, and then seeing how our hero is going to overcome them. That's always beautiful. I think you said the magic word here, my friend. You said the magic word, which is payoff. And I didn't even think of that until you said it like 5 minutes ago. And I'm like, oh, that's it. That's the key. That's what's missing here. And payoff seems to be a thing that this show is lacking, at least for me. And I'm not talking about payoff down the line, because we're 5 phases in. We should all understand how that works by now. Things get paid off down the line. Like the thing in the ocean from Eternals is going to be paid off. Like, don't worry. We can rest easy. Payoff happens down the line if we're patient. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about payoff in the show itself. And I don't think I could find any there. Granted, it's been a long 6 weeks for me, so maybe there are details that I'm forgetting, but off the top of my head, I feel like Nick Fury didn't walk out of episode 6 really any different than he walked into episode 1. It's not like you said about Talos and Talos's ideals and how there was this naivete to him. It's not like Nick had a moment where posthumously Talos's words affected him and he realized, you know what? Things would be better if I did look at things from Talos's point of view. It's too bad it's too late now to tell my friend this face to face, but I'm going to try to make this right. We never had that kind of moment. We never had any moment of, wow, this guy, Rhodes, who is like a friend of mine, who is also an Avenger, who I've known for many years, is now a Skrull. Wow, that's a bummer. One of my only close friends in the world is a Skrull. I want to deal with that. That was never really a thing for Fury to deal with. My other closest friend in the world, Maria, is dead. That was never like a thing that at the end of episode 6, he's not like, okay, I finally, made peace with the fact that my friend is dead. But it's not a show that challenged anything except Gravik is bad and we should stop him from doing the bad stuff. Because
he was a good villain too. Like, he was a good villain.
He was, yeah. He was
had
scary.
all the right things going for him.
Great motivation for the villain. Great actor playing him too. Gaia, payoff for Gaia. I mean, it's not really quite there either. Because, like you said, she's not going to fight Gravik with this Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die kind of thing. She's just there. I don't even think she says. Does she say anything to him? He's just like blah 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 blah. You're weak. Okay,
no,
right?
He does do the Montoya thing. She's like, you killed my mother, you killed my father, and now I'm like, essentially now I'm going to kill you. I can't remember the rest of the thing, but again, it wasn't like a hoorah moment. Like, yeah, you got him back. It was just like eye for an eye.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing to kind of pin onto your superhero story here, an eye for an eye. So besides her and Fury, like, there's really nobody else to have to attach payoff to, right? The Skrulls are still not getting what they were promised. So it's not like in a cool, twisted, dark way, Gravik's actions benefited his people. In fact, they have now possibly made things worse because the president seems like a real asshole. So maybe it's setting up cool stuff down the line, and that's great. We love that. We're Marvel heads. We love seeing that. But why does this story exist? Why do I care that Fury and his wife had a moment where they're like, yeah, we're cool. We forgive each other, when we didn't even know he had a wife for all this time. And I'm not even sure what they were forgiving each other for, other than the fact that they were just suspicious of one another for a little bit. I don't know, man. I don't see where the payoff is in the context of these 6 episodes.
Absolutely, and so it's a great highlight here, and it's honestly, I don't want to say it's a bad show because it's not, but I think what makes, when we compare it to moments like, something like an Iron Man movie or like the Disney Pluses, even, it's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky to say which Disney Plus series stands out. Actually, a good example is oh wow, I can't even remember her name right now.
WandaVision?
In Moon Knight, when they brought back the Scarlet Beetle, I think, or whatever her name is.
The Scarlet Scarab?
That's the one. Thank you. Scarlet Scarab. When they brought her back, like, that's a payoff.
Yeah.
Like that like she's an important character because she has ties to characters in comic history, but she also has ties to Moon Knight, and it's kind of like Moon Knight's world, and they introduce a new hero that way. But Gaia, I wouldn't say is a new hero yet. Like, I don't even know where she's gonna go from here. Like I don't even know. Like, I just don't even know what she just agreed to. Like, I have nothing to work off of. It's so like Moon Knight and the Scarlet Scarab, like, they're gonna go, deal with this whole God thing that's been going on. I get that.
Right.
They're gonna go crusade off into the desert. Like, that's what they're gonna do. But Gaia, I'm not even convinced, like, what she's going to do. Like, I'm just not convinced. Like, I don't even know if she is a hero character because her motivations are not even as, like, her, like, they're not heroic. They're not. I don't know how else to phrase it. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It's just like, it's the payoff of, like, man, this, the guy in Moon Knight, he is bad. He worships a terrible god who believes that who believes that, you know, that they have the power to determine someone is bad before they do bad things. And that is very wrong. That having that level of power is horrible, because you could be wrong. That person could and what I agree with Khonshu is like that person could be good in the long run. They may not do that bad act because of the
Right.
circumstances. But Khonshu is also wrong, because you don't want something to happen after the fact. But in this humble middle ground is these two heroes who are going to determine how to move forward and how to manage this god. Brilliant.
Mhm.
I get it. New hero introduced. Let's do this. Moon Knight. Let's live in the desert. But Gaia, she just literally, if Talos is not right and Gravik is wrong, what are you gonna do? But all right, we digress. I think we've exercised enough about Gaia and the problem with the show. I think the show just, it's just like it doesn't offer something to the table that at least the others strive to do. It may not have been what we wanted overall, but at least there's something we could take from it, right? But this show literally presents nothing. Like nothing on the table. It almost feels like the Indiana Jones theory, where like, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones really had nothing to do with anything, because in the end, they would have figured it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all the events would have still played out the same way had you know, Indiana Jones not existed, because the Nazis would have grabbed the Covenant, they would have opened it, they all would have been wiped out, and then Indiana Jones, it would have mattered, right? But yeah, it kind of feels like that. It just feels like Nick Fury's doing all these things, but in the end, like it's so tightly packed in a neat little package. It's like, is there any real consequences here? Like all the only consequence I gather from this, and kind of brings me to the next section, which is like the president seems very like, yo, aliens are super bad. Let's just kill them all. And there is a nice there is some nice setup moments, I will say, but it's not enough to make me go, wow, this show was amazing. It just feels like the stepping stone, and not in a good way, but a stepping stone to the next thing, where it's just like, I literally stepped over this tiny little stone in all this pond and just moved on to the next thing without appreciating where I just was. The setup is interesting, because the president kind of leads us to like a Thunderbolts kind of thing, because he's going to be like a one-term, cause a lot of damage kind of president, utilizing like these Thunderbolts potentially. But yeah, I'm just like kind of like, okay, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a cool setup, and I hope you're right. I hope that does have ripples and Thunderbolts, because if this guy is still president, he could be the one that says, I want you guys to go to that giant alien in the water and figure out what it is, because I don't trust aliens no more, whatever, right? It's going to be the consequences of what we saw take place here. Like I said, their long game is great. I've total faith in that. I'm sitting here as patiently as ever, looking forward to it. It's all fun stuff. It's just this chapter of the Marvel story is one of those chapters that I don't know if I can look back on fondly. I can look back on moments of it fondly, but I don't know if I can look back on it and say, man, what a great ride Secret Invasion was. And even Disney Plus shows that were like, you know, when we did our ranking, like Disney Plus shows that ranked pretty low for me. Like I think Miss Marvel was pretty low for me. And that show was still a ride, man. Miss Marvel was a ride. It's a great introduction to a character. And Secret Invasion really was not designed to be an introduction to a character the way Miss Marvel was, the way Moon Knight was, unless you count Gaia. But the problem with that is, and what I'm about to say, I mean this with all due respect to Emilia Clarke, because I love her, and I know I'm waiting for her to call me. and I mean this with all due respect to Olivia Colman, because she is like a fantastic actor, and like every time I watch her, I'm just like, why can't I be this good? It's not fair. You're so good at acting. So all due respect to these two women, because they are magnificent, but I can't think of a single Marvel fan. I'm not talking just like casual fan. I can't even think of a single person in the front of the theater, Ryan, who finishes watching episode 6 of Secret Invasion and says, "Oh hell yeah, more of the Spy Lady and the Skrull," right?
Yeah.
Like there's you and Nick seeing 1 down, 5 to go. I can't. I want to. I like. How many people on planet Earth have that reaction to? Hey, do you want to work together, random Skrull? I sure do, random British spy. Right? How many Marvel fans?
Honestly, 100%. I mean, you definitely captured exactly my feeling right there.
I can't think of a single human being who is like, I have been waiting since my childhood in the 90s to see random British spy and random Skrull finally together on the big screen, right? So that whole setup scene is it's trying to get us excited for something when literally there are, I mean, you and I right now could probably name 50 characters that people are way more interested in seeing being set up. So I don't know what they think they're doing with those two. And again, I will gladly watch those two in anything. So I'm not going to complain if they announce tomorrow, Gaia and Sonia Fallsworth, the movie. But why? Who wants? Who's like, this is the story that's got to be told next? That's what people are hungry for. I'm flabbergasted by that. And I mean, obviously, you want to keep those two actors in your universe because use them. They are great. But what a strange way to utilize those tools. Strange way.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, exactly. It's such a weird cliffhanger to be like, woo, yeah. Like, oh my God, 1 down, 5 to go. Like, yeah, that moment was just like literally think of any head explosion, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, no, I mean, that's perfectly said. And I know we talked about in the last one that like you can't just throw things in, it has to serve the story. But we came up with like at least a dozen ways to have characters be introduced and serve the story. There were ways to do it, and it just feels like I don't even know why like they didn't even spend an episode just going like just in some way going like Fury at the table being like, okay, well, if Rhodey's a Skrull, let me go through the Avengers here. And you could have done like a recap episode, or even that's you could have been like, well, this person could be a Skrull, and change the narrative of setting up previous stories to make you rethink everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been a great episode. I would have been all over it. You could have thrown in all sorts of tags and Easter eggs and all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, they're just, they just like, it literally, the story was like, hey, we had Skrulls trying to get Russia and US to fight, but it didn't happen. And like, yeah, like there's like, oh my God. But like, and then like, in the end, they're like, well, I'm going back to space now because we're starting peace talks with the Kree. Where was that part of the story? That would have been great to know that they were working with the Kree.
That feels like a trailer for the Marvels more than anything else. That's what that felt like to me.
Yeah, but again, why wasn't that in there? If you're gonna set up the Marvels and you wanted like, and Secret Invasion is supposed to be a building block towards it, then where were the Kree in this story? Where? Can you show it to me? Am I somehow assuming that the president may be a Kree because he hates the Skrulls so much and he hates anyone off-world? Like, okay, like that's something to work with. Like, is Captain Marvel like on the planet? I don't know, but like, where were the Kree in the story? And that's the problem. Nick Fury, I get that he's all cloak and dagger and he's all stealth and guile and he's not supposed to be in the front scenes. But that doesn't mean we as viewers can't really know what he's up to. We need to know so we can go, we can have those moments like that people in the back of the theater do, being like, "Oh, they're going to do something and it's clearly foreshadowed, but now I get it." And that's the moment we want to have. We want to have that thing where it's like we know something, but the characters on the screen don't know it yet. And we want everyone to meet in the middle. And this show is keeping the viewers out of that picture, and only Nick Fury is the one person that knows everything. And it's just like, okay. So, and he wraps everything up in a neat little package and literally just like, okay, guys, well, guess we're going on to Marvels now. And it's like, man, peace talks to the Kree, which is like literally the last time we heard about the Kree and having like, the whole scroll thing was Captain Marvel. The time before that was Guardians of the Galaxy #1. So clearly there's a huge jump in stories of the Kree relationship and the Skrulls. And it's like, Nick Fury, you're telling me you're telling me and selling me on the idea that if I watch Disney Plus series, I get like backstage pass information that I can go to the movies and have that little extra knowledge. And now I'm literally going into the Marvels now with the same information that everyone else has if they watch the trailer.
Yeah, that's
Jonathan,
true.
tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
I cannot do that, sir.
No, I'm saying, Jonathan, I think you agree with me. So I'm like, Jonathan, just like, let me know, man. Dude, anyone watching this video, let me know. What are we missing? What are we missing here to make this like a good or great show? Or sorry, a great show. I do think it's good.
It is a good show.
The best moments in this show for me was the dialogue between Talos and Nick Fury. Some of the best moments in the show were some of the biggest conversations they had. The beginning, the first episode, Sonya Fallsworth scenes, all fun. I love how she kind of always had a one-up on the Skrulls, which was really cool. Chance to throw in what's her name? Anyways, Dr. Doom's assistant, you could have used her and kind of hype up Dr. Doom a little bit. But why are you like Disney Plus? Why are you afraid of hyping up characters we want to see? We want to see them, and they could have served a really cool part of the story. You could have had that scene where the president's like, yeah, we need to kill all these aliens now, and then and Nick Fury's like, that's bad because now you have people going to be killing people thinking they're Skrulls, but they're not. Why couldn't we show the Punisher doing that stuff?
Yeah, that's a good point. That was a great little montage. I did like that montage of just like, wow, this, and it's an example of what works on this show, because what works is the really powerful stuff, the parallels that they draw between how the humans treat the aliens on the show versus how Group A of humans tends to treat Group B of humans in the real world, and how they got some really profound points across on that topic on this show. And that's what I love the most about this show. And that montage at the end really sold a good story of just how dangerous it is when one blowhard with too much power, goes up and says inflammatory things, and idiots interpret it one way and decide to go and do something stupid about it. I mean, we lived through 4 years of Trump, right? So we know what that's like. So that's a great parallel to draw and integrate into the Marvel world. However, you put a great idea into a pot of boiling water, it doesn't necessarily make it a delicious stew. It's still a pot of flavorless water that just has like a really good ingredient that you dumped in there. but you don't want to just eat that. You need some meat and potatoes in this stew. And it feels like that's what's going on here. It feels like they had a lot of cool ideas about this topic, about like, how people treat one another, and Talos views it one way and Nick Fury views it another way, and how the idea of promising hope to people who are immigrating, and denying them that, and all. There's so much beautiful stuff to get in there and chew on and talk about, and those are all stupendous ingredients. But it felt like they had the ingredients and they're like, we have to use Marvel as a platform for this, and they didn't quite know how to do that. And I think they did the best they could with the given circumstances, but you get this show at the end of the day that tackles those things and tackles them decently enough. But once it jumps back to the Marvel of it all, where, hey, there's aliens, let's go fight them, everybody's like, who cares? And even to the point where it felt sometimes like Nick Fury was feeling that way. When Nick Fury is talking to his wife, that's the most alive we see Nick Fury on this show. And then, like I said, on the flip side of that, when he's talking to who's supposed to be a friend of his, an Avenger, and it turns out he's a Skrull, and they have this back and forth now where he's like, I know you're a Skrull. Nick Fury seems so detached. He's like, oh, I'm going to get you. Right? There's no substance to that story. And I know it probably sounds like bias, because I came into this with that in mind, where I'm like, I don't care about Skrulls. I never liked the idea of the Secret Invasion comic. But the show did not really do the trick for me of taking that idea and giving it enough substance to make me say, hey, Secret Invasion can work if it's done like this. It's still just good ideas tossed into plain water.
Well, you talk about good ideas. Okay, so hold on. Let's quickly dive into good ideas. Okay. Good ideas in the show could have been, one, Talos talking about humanity pushing back. You could have done a montage there. You could have explored that further and showed not only like Talos talking about him working with Spider-Man, because that happened, and he got to see firsthand of someone who overcame adversity, essentially, and become better than he was. And Talos didn't even spend any time on that subject. And I agree with you. You talk about these super Skrulls, and then we talk about the Harvest. The Harvest was one episode of them talking about how they picked up DNA from all these superheroes. Why didn't you spend more time connecting the dots in terms of like going back to Nick Fury's concerns of where threats were coming from? How they were hilariously unprepared when, the superheroes, were popping up everywhere. Right. And like that they built this harvest formula. Like there's kind of a well healthy balance of like, yes, we, the audience, know this stuff, but we need to be reminded of why and what it means for the future. Right. We have a character, we have Fury's wife, who has a book on like superhumans and mutants, essentially, and you barely explore her story on it. Like, why is she studying that? Like there's superhumans out there, maybe she knows like what's coming next, like that kind of thing. There's so many good ideas. Another perfect example. We get Rhodes revived from that room or whatever, and he's still in a gown, which tells me that he's probably like the Skrull replaced him just after the events of Civil War by the looks of things. But you make the audience assume that that's what we're being told. And then even what's his name? Ross. He's in there and he's like, hey, how long have you been in there? How long has he been in there? We don't even know that. So there's like the key story elements that could have really been cool episodes with these characters in Nick Fury's story to really do some cool stuff. And and in the end we're contained to this particular part. And then even with Maria Hill, well, too bad she's dead. Like I don't know if on like the business side of Marvel they like for example, like on the business side of Marvel, maybe Amelia Clark, they're like her agent's like, oh, you could be this character, so we should ask for this ton of money. And then Marvel's like, well, we're actually thinking of this, so we cannot spend that kind of money. And then you just play some random character that's a really good actor, and it's like, come on, like what's really going on here? Just be honest with us here. And yeah, so like there's a lot of good ideas, but you're right. I don't know why you keep using cooking metaphors, but like if you're planting the seed of a good idea, letting a seed grow, there takes a lot of things. You gotta fill it with water, make sure it gets enough sunlight, has the right good soil. That's the kind of metaphor I was thinking of. But the stew is a good one, having good meat and potatoes to go with it. But yeah, and like this, yeah, I just feel like throw in some heroes that could have been other Skrulls as well. Like Rhodey was a cool option, but there's other options you could have had too to really spice things up. Why didn't they even introduce Quake? They could have introduced the girl from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like had her in the fold, and like she was Fury's like trump card to like turn the tide or something. Like you always like so many ideas. I just feel like it's like in acting class, when we used to do our scenes, and they're like, you could have taken it so much further. It's the same with the show. You could have taken it so much further, and you just played it so safe, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, I don't mind. This could have been completely free of cameos, and it was, to be honest. It could have. I don't mind that it's free of cameos. I don't care that we didn't see Quake or whatever, because at the end of the day, I just wanted it to have a point. And either I'm just a dum-dum and the point was lost on me, because that happens every now and then. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of folks are feeling the same temperature on this that we are, that it's just like, why was this made? Right?
Honestly, the only point I can draw from this is like you can't trust anyone, so now the president's just going to wipe them all out. And but Fury's heartwarming story of I just accept you for who you are, and even though you're a shapeshifter, that's the point I got from this story. That's it.
Yeah,
you can't trust anyone, but love will prevail.
And somehow we needed 6 episodes and $200 million to make that point. I don't know how accurate that budgetary report was, Ryan. But when I heard that this show cost north of $200 million, it cost more money than Oppenheimer to make Secret Invasion. I consider myself I'm fairly confident to say I'm an expert when it comes to things like art and writing and whatever. I am not an expert on money. So I have no idea what I'm talking about when I say what I'm about to say. But where the F did that money go? Because I didn't see any of it on screen. Where did that money go, Ryan? I mean, I know, you got top shelf actors like Don Cheadle and Sam Jackson. They don't come cheap. But
$200 million.
Where did that money go?
Yeah.
Every scene is in like a gray room full of cracked walls with nothing in it. Where did that money go?
And you can't tell me that it all went to CG, because like there's only 1 episode or 2 episodes tops that used that much CG. And honestly, you bring up a good point. It was it's very similar to Avatar. When I finally watched the sequel, Way of Water, is a $1 billion movie, and it's essentially like Free Willy. And I'm like, you spent $1 billion for me to watch how someone establishes communications with a whale.
But he's a big whale, Ryan. He's even bigger than Willy.
He's a big whale with a big old heart, and we got to treat our. I can't remember how Isabella said it, but it was so good. It was such a
Uh,
good like. It was
when
such a
she
good.
roasts something, it's so funny.
It's priceless, honestly. It's such a gem. She said something along the lines of like, oh man, it's not like it's something like they went for. Oh, I can't even do it justice, but it's something along the lines of like they spent $1 billion to essentially show us show us some some lighthearted way to be kinder to the environment, but it doesn't actually show us how to like help the environment. It just shows us that we should be nice to animals. Like, but she said it with way more gusto and way more oomph behind it, and it was. Yeah, I was in tears laughing. Like it was so, and like here we are watching this kid, like I see you, whale, and like all this stuff. It was, oh man. But my point is like, did we really need it? And I agree with Isabella. Did we really need $1 billion to tell that story? You know what I mean? Like, did we really need to spend like, could that money not have gone to many other things to help the world? But no, we told $1 billion story about CG aliens who are trying to free Willy. Like that's essentially, and the first one was, and after Isabella said this, I can't look at the first one any other way now. She's like, and the first one is like a reenactment of Pocahontas in space. But you bring up a good point, and it's just like, I actually am curious what the planning was for the story, and like I just they convinced, like Marvel spent time convincing me that the people that create these shows are these big comic book fans. Like the producers, all the producers are big comic book nerds. Huge. Nate Moore is like a huge comic book nerd. And in the end, I get a product that tells a good spy movie story with shape-shifting aliens, which is, I mean, you could tell a pretty cool story that way. We've seen in various forms. But in the end, it didn't have that Marvel gusto of like, I don't know, introducing something, like you said, like it didn't, like Marvel is always building blocks to this amazing thing. And like, maybe in the Marvels we'll see it, but was this a $200 million thing to just add a little more trailer footage to the Marvels?
I'm so curious what they spent it on. I mean, I'm sure that makeup, the Skrull makeup, isn't cheap. I'm sure CGI isn't cheap, but for it to cost that much, I can't. My non-mathy brain cannot fathom what it went towards. The only thing I can think of is they spent it on everything but sets, and when it came time to budget their sets, they were like, "Oh crap, we are out of money." Empty restaurants, everybody.
Empty restaurants in Chernobyl all over. Yeah, no, honestly, and I don't want this episode to feel like we're saying it's a terrible series. It's not. It's good.
It's not.
It has some really good storytelling. It really does. But to say it's a Marvel show, it's missing something to be a Marvel show, aside from being like Nick Fury's show.
Yeah.
Like there's just something like there's just something not there, right? Like, and like you talk, like a lot of people I've been talking to lately have been talking about the DC universe, or the DC extended universe, as they say. And they're like, these last few movies are doing terrible because James Gunn came out and said, I have a plan, and these movies coming out have nothing to do with my movies. But when I get started, I'm going to tell this like integral DC universe story. And it just made me realize like that, like the Marvel formula is like everything's a building block, but this one is supposed to be a building block. But aside from it being obviously about the Marvels, I have no idea where this phase is going, aside from like Kang. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the first one was cool. It was building the Thanos, and it just had this like how Thanos is influencing the world, like the MCU at that time and all that stuff. Like there were so many elements that were serving towards a greater story. I really don't feel this served me to a great story. This didn't serve me anything. I just like, I'm just literally assuming it is. You know what I mean?
Right. And it is going to set the stage. It is a building block, and we can look forward to it having effects down the line. But it's just, if all these blocks have that we've had before have been these like beautiful multicolored plastic play school blocks that just look magnificent, this has just been like a wooden cube that's just been grayed by time, and there's just there's nothing aesthetically or intrinsically pleasing about this cube.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't hold it and be like, wow, I'm glad I got this cube. It's just like, okay, I got to add something else to this tower, so I guess this is going here.
It just goes back to payoff, right? There
Mhm.
was no payoff with this one. And with Marvel movies, you get the end credit sequences, you get the big plot twists that could affect the big consequences that affect the universe in some way. But overall, the only moments like that I got was like a 2-minute, 2-second president scene, the president being like, aliens are bad, we're gonna wipe them out, and yeah, we're in peace talks with the Kree.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll just run with that. But like again, like they didn't spend time with it. It's just like a fact. Like,
Mhm.
man, like I here's a good example. Because I know we're kind of circling around it, but like we got a very superficial payoff, and the difference is that this, like, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example. We get new characters who are like, working together, and Star Lord stumbles upon a Power Stone. We know the Power Stone at this point is serving Thanos, who wants them. But no, but in the end, the person he sent to get them decides, hey, I don't have to take orders from you. I'm going to use this Power Stone and start wiping out the world. There are so many connected elements that are telling one big story, which is like, hey, we now have the Guardians to respond to threats like this in space,
Mhm.
right? So there's kind of all these moving gears. With Secret Invasion, Skrulls are part of that story. We know they're in the war with the Kree, but the next stage is like, okay, but the Skrulls have been on Earth for a while, and there's a lot of them. And now the president learns that they're bad and they need to be wiped out. And Nick Fury, somehow a character who has been in space and has Carol Danvers of the Kree, but we haven't seen him talk to her in some long period of time. And the last time we saw Carol Danvers is she's too busy to tell us what she's doing. And all of a sudden, I'm expecting to believe that Nick Fury's leading peace talks with the Kree when he could barely keep things together on Earth.
That's a good point. He's like, well, I guess I'll go deal with peace talks of some other species.
Yeah, like he's like, literally, I'm tired of dealing with humans, so I'm gonna try peace talks with an entire race that's literally built to be a military superpower. And I'm gonna go just be like, hey guys, let me talk to you. Let me help create peace talks between you and the Skrulls, even though you guys have been at war for centuries. And
Those
I'm gonna
Kree are going to
solve
be
those
like,
problems. That's a
who are you?
like, yeah. If I were like the Kree, if I were the Kree at that negotiation table, I'd be like, how, like, why? At what point do you think that you're going to be able to convince me anything?
If Carol is not there at that table, Nick is in trouble.
But here's the other thing too. Okay, I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. Captain Marvel, I really think it was on the tipping point of being a good, like having all the right elements to make the next great Marvel movie. Like we're talking another great character introduced that can have the same influential impact as like your Captain Americas, your Iron Mans, your Spider-Mans, like just really top tier characters, right? And they told their story, but because they didn't use Captain Marvel, like Captain Marvel, like the Kree guy who could have been on Earth this whole time, and been Coulson the whole time. Okay, I was all for it, fellow comic book fans. I was all for Coulson being Captain Marvel this whole time. And literally in that movie, when we saw the young Coulson, I would have loved seeing a quick scene of him being like, "Yo, Kree, just letting you know, Skrulls have invaded Earth. We need to do something about it." Okay, and then the Kree are like, "Cool," and they send the Sentry, and then then we have the Skrull thing going on. Well, the Sentry's coming, and the Sentry doesn't come right away in Captain Marvel movie, but it sets it up that the Kree are coming. And then, Coulson's like, "Oh, but I've seen humans have this incredible potential because I've seen Captain Marvel." Okay. Like, I've seen what she can do. And then now you come to Secret Invasion only to find out that Coulson was a Kree the whole time. And now you have Skrulls who have already invaded. And now what is Fury going to do? Like, I just would have loved that so much. But now you have, and then that would have explained with Coulson being a Kree this whole time and having that trust with Nick Fury and understanding that why Nick Fury needs to start building up a response team or a superhero team. And because he was inspired by Captain Marvel, who also in turn inspires, Coulson to be like, "Hey, we the Kree need to leave this planet alone. The human race has got so much potential. We need to work with them, blah, 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 blah." And literally, Coulson goes, "Well, now tell me about the Kree." And then now he has Talos. "Tell me about the Skrulls." Now I can sit at the table and be like, "Hey, guys, we can work this out."
Well, I'm sure Carol will do that. And I mean, Marvel probably didn't want to make Coulson Marvel because they were like, it's too similar to how we're making Christine Everhart and Nihilus. So they didn't want to repeat themselves, Ryan. They got to be fresh, right? They got to keep coming at you with fresh stuff. So as we wrap up here, let's do this. Let's play a little game here. Let's put the future of the whole MCU in our hands.
Oh boy.
And you can go first if you want, or you can tell me to go first, whatever you prefer. But let's each of us pick 2 things that this show did that can have cool consequences in the future.
Okay.
What do you think? You want to start us off, or you want me to go?
I think we should take turns on one each.
All right.
Do you want to go for? Do you want to rock, paper, scissors it? Or?
Rock, paper, scissors. For those people listening, it's going to be a riveting match.
Yeah.
All right, let's try it. Ready?
All right, ready? Rock, paper,
scissors, shoot. Hey, we both picked rock. You know what that means? We're both thinking Ben Grimm, the Thing, is going to come out of this somehow.
Okay, I'll go first.
All right.
So with the president being like, off-world aliens are bad. I mean, yeah, off-world aliens from outer space are bad, and like essentially killing all Skrulls, and we know how to find you. He's eventually going to turn and say, anyone with powers is bad, and us kicking off the whole hate to mutants.
Yeah.
And kind of setting up the mutant story, and then he hires classic Mr. Henry Peter Gyrick to answer against the mutant problem. I'm getting ahead of myself. The president says Skrulls are bad, and we have a way to find you. And he introduces Sentinels.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Sentinels Sentinels can't determine the difference between a Skrull and a mutant. And then that's what kind of starts that whole thing off.
And you know where a perfect place is to get those Sentinels rolling?
Where?
Armor Wars.
Ooh, that was a good back and forth there.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
That's a great place to introduce them, and Sentinels are awesome. Yeah, I love that. I had a similar thing springboarding off the president, where it's because I was thinking, okay, he says off-worlders, that includes Asgardians. So I feel like one of my things would be that would reach into the Thor characters would be in danger. And I think he would also extend that hatred to Carol Danvers as well, because she's pretty much not human at this point. I feel like that would be something where when she comes back to Earth in the Marvels for however long she's here, she's not going to be welcome. And that's something that she's going to have to deal with on top of all this craziness that's going on. So yeah, that was pretty much mine. But you took it to Sentinels, and I love that.
I loved your complimenting of the Armor Wars in there. That's a really good.
Thank you.
Really good step there. All right, your turn. Or is it, you just kind of talked about it, right?
Yeah, that was my first one. Do you have a second one or no?
I do have a second one.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, my second one is playing off of the Kree peace talks, and what I'd love to see is the Krees start experimenting on the planet Earth and seeing how the Skrulls were experimenting with superhuman genes and creating super Skrulls. The Kree looked at creating kind of superhuman weapons themselves, and they create the Inhumans.
Ooh, that's wicked. We need some more Inhumans in our life.
Because like, again, Kree are strong, yes, but they can't compete with super Skrulls. So how are they going to compete with it? And they're not going to, as a military race, they're not going to experiment with themselves unless they have guinea pigs to experiment first. So why not, because of the peace talks, start being like, hey, yeah, no, we're being peaceful here. We're just coming to do this negotiation. Meanwhile, abducting humans from the planet and then experimenting on them.
Beautiful. I like it. And I want some Inhumans. I want to see Medusa on the big screen.
Yeah.
So let's make it happen. And for my second one, I'm going to go with Sonya Fallsworth. She's an ally of Fury, but I don't think she's necessarily always going to be an ally of America. Ooh. So I'm going to go with Sonya uses Gaia as her weapon, right? Sends her out to do stuff. And she's going to get wise and realize that the U.S. government has the Thunderbolts doing whatever the Thunderbolts are doing. And Sonya doesn't like it. So she's going to send Gaia to go kick the Thunderbolts' ass.
Just Gaia by herself, a one-woman army, eh?
Mm-hmm. She's got a lot of DNA. She's got some Thor semen in there, right? Whatever. So she can do whatever. She can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it. There is some really cool thing, but you're right. And I think this exercise definitely shows a lot of promise in terms of where it could go. There's a lot I'd look forward to. But yeah, like, up the stakes. Introduce characters, continue to make the world bigger, but at the same time make it feel smaller and cross paths more. Like, why hasn't She-Hulk ran into Shang-Chi yet? Why hasn't Captain Marvel hung out with Shang-Chi? Like, just mixing and matching characters. Daredevil. Why hasn't Daredevil mixed with other characters yet? I mean, I'm looking forward to that show. I want to see some more of that stuff going on. Why hasn't Daredevil hung out with Moon Knight? Why hasn't Blade found Moon Knight? Why hasn't?
Well, Blade is a whole other story now.
Yeah, I know, right? But why hasn't the Black Knight come hang out with Moon Knight? I don't know.
All right.
We have all these characters. They literally put Moon Knight in freaking Britain, and he doesn't even run into anybody. For a character who starts off in New York, who is a Marine, and they put him in Britain, and they don't even feature any other characters, but just because he needs to be in Britain.
And didn't, like, Oscar Isaac do like some kind of Instagram post like over a year ago where he pretty much all but confirmed they were filming a second season of Moon Knight, but that was the last I heard of it.
Yeah, there was something like that. I remember. Yeah, I remember saying there's a lot of filming he's doing there. Excuse me. Yeah, I remember them saying there was a lot of filming they were doing for Moon Knight, and there was rumors that it was the second season, but
yeah, because he was going to Cairo and he's on a boat. I don't know. They'll come. They'll all come. First, the studios need to pay their writers and actors, so that we can get these amazing things.
Pay them fair and equally.
Pay them fair and equally. Make it all equitable, so everybody gets what they they earn what they deserve. And if any of our upcoming wonderful Marvel stuff is delayed, we know whose fault it is. Iger.
Yeah, Iger.
That's the real secret invasion. We got to secretly invade Iger's bank accounts and give that money to people who actually deserve it. So that's the end of Secret Invasion. Ryan, do you have an Infinity Stone rating for this show?
Oh man, I forgot we do that. Fudge. I'm gonna say, oh man, I feel like I want to go there, but I don't want to go there. I'm gonna say, I don't want to sound harsh.
Sound harsh. I'm
gonna go with 3 stones.
3 stones. Stanley is spinning in his grave right now. He's so upset at you.
It could have been, the problem I have with it is it could have been so much more, and it was really shallow. It was really shallow and superficial.
Yeah, I'm there with you, buddy. I'm at 3.5 stones.
I don't know how you're doing these 0.5s. You either just it could be just 3 or 4.
I like to cut a stone in half. It gives me more malleability to work with here.
Oh, listen to you.
Yeah, there's stuff I loved in every episode. I mean, I will never complain when I get to see Nick Fury and when I get to see Emilia Clarke. You know, there's great stuff in there. All those wonderful, profound scenes between Nick and Priscilla or Nick and Talos, right? There's so much good stuff there. But it's not my favorite. It was not my favorite story when the comics did it. It's not my favorite story when the MCU does it. I just do not care for Skrulls. I think they are boring, and this show has not proven me wrong after 6 weeks.
That's a real shame, buddy.
Unfortunately. Ryan, where can people find you when you are no longer a Skrull?
You can find me over on youtube.com/expertzone. So yeah,
with 12 O's.
Expert Zone. But Expert Zone, and we got new content coming out every week. You can find our content specifically coming out on Thursdays. And we stream on Fridays, so make sure you come check us out.
Yay! And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Andrew Fantasia, and also on YouTube here at Digital Charcuterie, on Rebel Scum Podcast, and on the Andrew Fantasia channel. And you can find my books on Amazon right now. We Were Wizards. They are fantasies. There are no Skrulls in them. I apologize for that. There are no presidents that try to kill Skrull. There's nothing that was in Secret Invasion is in this, as far as I can think of. There are green people sometimes, so maybe that counts. But We Were Wizards. Check it out on Amazon right now. And other than that, you will see us shortly. No, you won't see us shortly. We'll probably do a Halloween special. That's probably the next time you will see us. And then in a couple months, we'll be back for the Marvels, which I'm very excited for. The Marvels.
We were also workshopping some ideas as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So there are some other special stuff coming down the pipeline. We'll probably need it because if that strike is any indication, we will not be getting new Marvel stuff after the Marvels until 2027. So
yeah.
Well, until then, everybody, especially you, Ryan, have a marvelous day.